over. I have nothing to do with Putin. I've never spoken to him. I don't know anything about him. Russia, if you're listening, I hope you're able to find the 30,000 emails. The entire thing has been a witch hunt, and there is no collusion. What the hell is going on? What the hell is going on?
What the hell is going on with Trump and Russia? So far, there's precious little evidence, only a deluge of questions. Trump denies it all. The central allegation against President Trump is that his campaign colluded with Russia to hack leading Democrats during the election.
The truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
There are now 5 separate congressional inquiries into Trump and Russia. The former director of the CIA spoke to one.
It should be clear to everyone that Russia brazenly interfered in our 2016 presidential election process, and that they undertook these activities despite our strong protests and explicit warning that they not do so.
That is the unified judgment of all the US intelligence agencies. I first heard about Russia interfering in the US election process in early 2016. One of Donald Trump's Republican opponents sent me to meet someone who'd retired from the US intelligence community.
You know, this former spy said to me, we've just had a recording from one of our allies which shows the Russians trying to help Donald Trump in the election. Whether that recording or any recording like it really exists is the subject of the many investigations into what relationship the Trump campaign had with the Kremlin. But it is the bedrock assumption of these investigations that the Russians did interfere in the election, and they did it to elect President Trump.
But was there collusion? The focus is now on the former National Security Advisor, Michael Flynn, the former campaign manager, Paul Manafort, Trump's friend, Roger Stone, and Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner. What did the president's men actually do? Ted Kontek saw many of the top-secret transcripts of Trump's people talking to the Russians. He sounds a note of skepticism.
You had the top classified clearances, and you saw many of the intercepts that are now the subject of fierce speculation in Washington. Was there any evidence of collusion between the Trump campaign and Russia that you saw?
No. From the things that I saw, there is nothing like that, and nor would you expect there to be. I mean, people are not that stupid. I mean, the Russians know we're listening, and others know we're listening. So if you're going to do something terribly nefarious, you're not going to publicize it.
That's a problem for Trump's critics, who include many in his own party.
There have been a string of intelligence chiefs coming to committee hearings saying they have seen no evidence of collusion. Would it not have emerged by now if it was there?
I have not seen a string of them coming before the committee saying there's no collusion. I have not observed that. There is, they've said that it's had no effect on the election, but they didn't say that there's no collusion. I think that's the reason why we're having these investigations. That's why you have a special prosecutor.
Another key allegation is that Russian criminals laundered money through Trump businesses, and that led to a relationship with Russian intelligence.
About 13 years ago, I was billions of dollars in debt.
As Trump told viewers of his show, The Apprentice, he bounced back. But how? His businesses had gone bankrupt 4 times. Who would loan to him? Congressional investigators are trying to find out if it was the Russians. They're trying to find out who owns apartments in Trump buildings. Often the real ownership is hidden under layers of shell companies. The working assumption is that the Russian mafia and the Russian state are often the same thing. Trump denies any wrongdoing. Jonathan Weiner was one of the US government's leading experts on money laundering.
It would be a terrible thing if someone who was president of the United States knowingly profited off laundering money for criminals. It'd be even worse if the president of the United States business profited off laundering money for the Russian state. It is not the safety, stability, security of the American people It is the advancement of the policies and goals of an adversary, and a serious adversary over a long time. So if that happened, that's something we need to know about, and the people involved need to be held accountable.
President Trump also faces claims that Russian intelligence filmed him with prostitutes, and so he's vulnerable to blackmail.
What are you looking for in this year's next Miss Universe?
Well, we have a lot. We have as good as I've ever seen in terms of beauty. The beauty is amazing.
It was during the Miss Universe pageant in Moscow that the blackmail tape was supposedly made. Trump is alleged to have paid prostitutes to urinate on a bed used by the Obamas on a state visit. That incendiary claim was made by a former MI6 spy, Christopher Steele. I was one of the first journalists to get a look at his now famous dossier back in October. The White House calls Steele's dossier fake news. The president's supporters say he's a germaphobe who'd never behave this way. The president himself said, of course he knew there'd be cameras in his Moscow hotel room.
There remains no proof that the Kremlin does have a Trump sex tape. Still, even before the Steele dossier was published, I heard from 2 different sources that the Russians had compromat or compromising material. It's possible that all these separate sources of information can be traced back ultimately to the Russian intelligence services. If so, how to interpret the leak? It could be a warning, this is what we have on you, or it could be what the Russians call provokatsiya, a provocation or lie designed to confuse people, something to inoculate Mr. Trump against all the other allegations he faces.
The president's critics say he acts as if the Kremlin does have a hold over him. Here he is with Russia's foreign minister and ambassador. No, say his supporters, this is the behaviour of a man with nothing to hide. The most deadly charge against Trump concerns his actions as president. Did he tell the then FBI director James Comey to kill the Russia investigation?
There's James. He's become more famous than me.
Trump greets Comey, Godfather style, with a kiss on the cheek.
I know it was you, Fredo. You broke my heart.
Just a few months before he sacked him. The former FBI director has apparently claimed this was done because he refused to pledge loyalty to the president. Trump has reportedly called Comey a nut job. Comey is now to testify to Congress.
One thing that we know about Jim Comey is that he has a flair for the dramatic, and he has, in previous open testimonies in Congress, sort of spun dramatic stories about his role in things. And so I can certainly see what's coming is a dramatic moment where Comey lays out his side of events and his interactions with Trump, and then we'll see where the investigators go from there.
Obstruction of justice was the first charge in the articles of impeachment against President Nixon. The lesson of Watergate, it's the cover-up that always gets you, not the original crime.
People are saying things privately that they are not saying publicly. There's a lot of discussion about impeachment. Is that just the Democrats, or is this both sides of the aisle now?
Of course, there are conversations going on. The people allude to them. You don't know exactly who's in those conversations. I've heard around town, I have no idea if there's any truth in it, that there's a talk about a grand deal where Pence becomes president, but there's a conversation with the Democrats about what would be in the agenda, that everybody pulls, if it had to come to this, that everybody understands that the country is in a constitutional crisis, which we are.
The president's defenders say that is pure fantasy.
Look at the way I've been treated lately.
To official Washington, it's very suspicious, but official Washington hasn't liked Donald Trump from the day he declared. He's an honest man, and I think basically he's going to be discovered to be an honest man. He'll probably be the most investigated president since Richard Nixon, but Don't look at a guy when he's down and out. Look at him over the long run. And over the long run, Donald Trump will, I think, transcend his enemies.
Trump's supporters say he's the victim of a conspiracy within the intelligence agencies to overturn the election result. His enemies believe he was long ago bought or blackmailed by the Kremlin. No evidence of that has yet emerged, but it would be a bitter irony for the president if he were brought down not by something in his past, but by his efforts to fight the accusations.